Before, I was fat and depressed. Now, I'm thin and happy. Thanks to Relicore. They're beating it into our heads and making us think that there's something wrong with us. That's what it boils down to. All this time, I've been taught not only at home, but also through the TV, through the music, through the videos, through the everything has been teaching me to hate myself so that I'd want to resort to doing things that would make someone else money. I was never able to get to a point where I felt like, yeah, I'm allowed to be happy now based on my weight loss. There was always another milestone to hit, always another low that I needed to reach before I was allowed to feel good. All those times when I looked in the mirror and I picked myself apart and I criticized my body and how I looked and the way my belly was bigger than everything else and the way that my back fat eclipses the booty. Y'all know that's a sore spot for me, okay? Hey boo, this is Nika and I am pleasantly unbothered. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another video. So you may know that I do videos about plus size dating, shopping as a big girl, try on hauls, relationships, self-love, and like self-acceptance and stuff, you know. And I've shared before about my struggles to accept my body and to love myself. I have been a big girl my entire life. I've been plus size, overweight, fat, whatever you want to call it, I've been it. And so getting to a place where I love myself, where I appreciate myself, where I'm happy to have the body that I have and to be in the place in my life that I'm in. I've gotten questions from a lot of you about how I've gotten to this point, how I have grown to love my body, even though I'm not the desirable kind of plus size. I don't have the hourglass or the pear shape, you know, the wide juicy hips and the big old booty and the big boobs, but the tiny waist, you know, I don't have that. I have a lot of tummy and I have back rolls, a lot of them. And my body isn't as toned or as firm as it could be, you know, so dealing with all of these things that have caused me in the past to have a negative self-image and finding a way to make it to the other side, you know, and to finally reach a place where I truly love and accept and adore myself. Before we get into it, if you end up enjoying this video, please do the thumbs up thing. Also, let me know down in the comments at any point what you think. Do you hear what I'm saying? Have you experienced something similar? You know, engage down there. And if you're not aware, I do have an email address where you can write me if you need a shoulder to cry on, if you need someone to vent to, if you need a different perspective about something or advice or something of the sort, you can write to me. So I would say that my journey to getting to where I am right now came in like a series of mini light bulbs going off. Of course, the journey to self-love and self-discovery and self-worth and all of those things are very personal things, so we'll all have a different path to get there. For me, it kind of happened in a series of moments where, you know, one light bulb went off, and then as that kind of sat in my mind and I started to make sense of it, another light bulb will go off, and then another one, until I finally got to a place where I was like, wow, like, something's happening here, some changes are going on, and I'm feeling like a different person every day, you know, like a newer, more improved person every single day. And that's when I knew I was onto something. So the first light bulb moment happened for me when I started reading a book by Dr. Brene Brown, who's like a research psychologist or something. I know she's an author. She's got a lot of credentials. And I'll leave the book and stuff details down in the description box so you can check it out. The book is called I Thought It Was Just Me, But It Isn't. And this is one of a few books that she has. I plan on getting through all of them. But there were just certain parts of this book that had me like, that's true. That's a good point. That's true too. And it was kind of eye-opening. Basically, the book is based on interviews with women over years and years and years, and documenting their experiences with shame and resilience and vulnerability. And I'm telling you, it's deep. And if you'll indulge me for a little bit, I'll just read a little bit to you real quick, okay? So one part says, if we were raised in families in which unattainable body types were highly valued, we might continue to impose that unreasonable expectation on ourselves. Even if we have found a partner who accepts us for who we are and who wants desperately for us to feel comfortable with our bodies. In other instances, our partners may enforce strict expectations, but our friends may either offer support or think less of us because we appear overly concerned about dieting. But even in the face of these opposing expectations, we all still want to be accepted and loved by these groups. So we struggle to find ways to please them all and then feel shame when we ultimately fail to meet the competing demands. We may feel shamed by doctors, colleagues, or fellow group members. And beyond these groups, there are even larger, more insidious systemic issues that we have to confront. For example, research shows that overweight and obese women have lower incomes, about $6,700 a year less, and higher rates of poverty, 10% higher than their non-obese peers. If you look at the perimeter of the shame web, which is explained more in the book, you'll see the media. The culture of shame is reinforced by what we see on television, in advertising, and marketing. It's what we see in movies, what we hear in music, and what we read in newspapers and magazines. When it comes to body image, there is no question about the value of thin. To make matters worse, as the waif look and heroin chic, heroin is in the drugs, are recycled in yesterday's fashion magazines, the new ideal body is still tiny except for a round, voluptuous bottom and huge breasts. This combination is not something that occurs very often in nature. The bone thin, big booty, and boobs combo is more often a carved to order package. Ooh, girl, shade, don't let me stop. Then it goes on to say, regardless of how we try to dodge the influence of the media, in our society, we cannot escape it. The average American exposed to over 3,000 advertisements a day and watches 3 years worth of television ads over the course of a lifetime. Trying to escape media influence in today's culture is as feasible as trying to protect ourselves from air pollution by not breathing. So anyhow, I could read this whole thing to you. I'm not gonna do that though, because we'd be here for a while. But starting to read these things and being like, wow, I don't have the thin body with large round breasts and a large round bottom and, you know, all the curves in the right places and all that. Yet I'm being measured up to that. And I may never have that. So if I continue measuring myself up to that, then I'll never be happy. In that moment where I realized that I could be setting myself up for perpetual unhappiness, like for the rest of my life, it really was like that light bulb going off like, so all the things that are happening are intentional. You know, like all the messages that we're seeing about the big boobs and the big booties and the slim waist and the diets, it's all intentional. And the book goes into that as well, talking about how many billions of dollars the diet industry and weight loss industry make every year based on us hating ourselves, even the makeup industry. All of these entire industries are built on the backs of us hating ourselves and us realizing that we don't measure up to these standards of beauty and us wanting to take these measures to try to get there. And once I started thinking about it that way, it was like, damn, that's messed up. They're trying to make money off of my unhappiness. Oh no, they didn't. You know, and ever since that veil was lifted and I peeked behind the curtain a little bit, it was like, okay, all right, I'll keep an eye out for that. I'll keep an eye out and pay attention to the advertisements that I'm seeing. I'll be conscious of the things that I feel when I see that CoverGirl commercial or that Slim Fast commercial. Do they still make Slim Fast? Or that MetaFast commercial, or that Weight Watchers commercial, or that cool sculpting, whatever that surgery is that freezes the fat away, and all of the infomercials for Relacor. You know, cortisol increases fat. Relacor decreases cortisol. You need Relacor. 50 million Americans can't be wrong. Like all these stupid things, they're beating it into our heads and making us think that there's something wrong with us. That's what it boils down to. That first light bulb for me was me realizing that all this time I've been taught, not only at home, not to any fault of their own, but also through the TV, through the music, through the videos, everything has been teaching me to hate myself so that I'd want to resort to doing things that would make someone else money. Forget light bulb, just like mind blown, you know? The next couple of light bulbs were inspired by me becoming a mother, you know, by my daughter, a precious, beautiful, amazing little girl who has absolutely transformed my life and who's made me incredibly conscious of the fact that now I shall be, for better or for worse, someone's role model. And also thinking back to me growing up as a young child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and me having such self-loathing feelings about myself and such negative like self-image, and thinking about the fact that I never ever want my daughter to have to feel that way, or to experience those feelings, or to deal with that shame, or those feelings of inadequacy, or of not being enough, or of being ugly, or whatever the case may be. Not wanting her to have to ever feel that way made me realize, like, oh shoot, you can't ever let her see you treat yourself badly, say anything bad about yourself, make self-deprecating jokes about myself or about my reflection, or even in regards to my treatment of her. She'll never have to deal with me body shaming her, whether intentionally or otherwise, or jokingly or otherwise, you know, or me commenting on her weight or on what she's eating or how much she's eating, you know, in a negative way. Obviously, parents have to be parents. If something has to be said, it shall be said. But at the same time, making sure that she's not subjected to some of the things I was, to the best of my ability, you know, and making sure she has a stable foundation to build off of, so that she doesn't have to go through a lot of the trials I did to finally discover it when she's 20-something years old, like I did, you know what I mean? And so that whole thought process got me like, damn, well, if I gotta teach her how to do that stuff and how to avoid that stuff, I gotta teach myself how to get through those things, how to leave those feelings, that shame, negativity, those self-loathing thoughts in the past, and actually put my money where my mouth is. You know, I was getting ready to talk the talk to her. You know, baby girl, you're beautiful, you're special, you're enough. Your body, no matter what you look like or who people say you look like, is a gift. You know, there's something that needs to be cherished and appreciated, never hated or despised. I was getting ready to talk the talk, so I had to be able to walk the walk. And that was another moment that got me like, okay, we gotta figure this out. And so obviously I'm not saying go out there and have a baby to make yourself feel good or to make yourself love yourself, but I am saying that there are little eyes looking at us, you know, not even just little eyes, there are other eyes, young girls and even women our own age, looking to us for guidance and for inspiration and some sense of comfort that it's gonna be all right, you know, and that being who they are is perfectly fine. Representation is so incredibly important. It's so important that we see people who look like us, who are living the lives that we aspire to live, or who are doing the things that we aspire to do. And if we don't see those people, that we try to be those people, that we set that example, and that we are opening doors and opening the minds of the people around us to the fact that we can live these lives, that we can take up space and not be ashamed of that, that we can be overweight and still be happy, that we can find someone who loves us for us, even at a larger size, or at being our heaviest, or at being our thinnest, and you know, whatever the case is, it is possible for all of these things to happen. And so often I feel like we don't believe it unless we can see it. And so from the moment I looked at my baby girl and it occurred to me that she could potentially go through a lot of the things I went through regarding her body and her weight, I vowed that that was not gonna happen, not on my watch. The third light bulb moment, also inspired by my daughter, came early in her being here, when I had to breastfeed and bathe her and take showers with her and be naked around her and things like that. And at first, I found myself being a bit hesitant to take my clothes off or to pull my boobie out or whatever, because I was so afraid of the judgment that comes with that. You know, somebody's about to see me naked. I gotta go shower with this person, you know? And on one hand, realizing like how silly that is. Like, first of all, she's a baby. Who cares if she sees me naked, right? She's a baby. Second of all, thinking like, wow, how sad is it that that's where my mind goes, that I'm automatically worried about my little baby girl judging my body based on how much big bodies and fat bodies get judged, you know? And then thirdly, which is where it really hit home, was the fact that when she looked at me, when I pulled out my boobie that was slightly saggy to breastfeed her, or when we took that shower and I had to get dried off completely naked in front of her and not have anything to hide myself or to guard myself or shield myself, there was not 1 ounce of judgment in her eyes. And why am I tearing up? God alone knows. When she looked at me in those moments when I was at my most vulnerable, for me, being, you know, disrobed at that time was probably the most vulnerable. Behind clothes, I could pull it together, you'll never know, you know, but being completely nude was like, whoa, all the shields are down, all the protections are down. And seeing her look at me like she was looking at anything else, like she looked at that window, or like she looked at that lamp, or like she looked at anything, and having zero judgment whatsoever, that's when that light bulb went off. And I was like, huh, nobody taught her yet that this is a bad body. She's so new to the world that she hasn't been taught this stuff yet. And so she's not jaded by that or influenced by that when she looks at me. And so there is no judgment to be had. As far as she knows, this is a regular body, because she's so brand new to the world that she has not yet been programmed to feel like there's something wrong with my body, the way I've been programmed, and the way you might have been programmed, and the way most of our society has been programmed to believe and to teach us and to reinforce. She's so new, and she's not tainted yet by those harmful thoughts and by those constructs. They were created once we got here. We didn't come into the world with those biases and with those judgments. They were created and fed to us, and we believe them and we accept them, and so we judge people based on them now. And so it really took me back to that first light bulb, you know? It's like, well, if she hasn't learned it yet, then where did I learn it from? You know, who taught me that I don't have a good body or a nice body or a desirable body or a body that's worthy of being looked at without judgment? Who taught me that? Where did I learn that? Once I realized that I was taught those things, taught to dislike my body and taught to feel like I had a bad body that needed to be changed, augmented, operated on, starved. And if I learned those things, then I could just as easily unlearn them. And just as easily might not be the right turn of phrase, because it was not easy at all, and it's not gonna be easy. And so all those things that I learned over the years, I had to slowly, you know, take down brick by brick and start to rebuild, basically. Starting with the idea that there is an ideal weight or an ideal body or an ideal way to look, and that ideal is attainable or obtainable. Girl, you know what I'm trying to say. And releasing that and realizing, like, you know what, that's not the only one way to exist. That there's gotta be some room for some other, something different, something that's not the ideal, especially since we've long discovered that even the models who are the ideal don't even really look like the way they look when they're portrayed on magazines and on television, you know, because they're nipped and tucked and spanked up and, you know, all these things. And so even the reality, or their version of reality that we see, isn't always real. So basically, one by one, I had to start to unlearn a lot of the things that I spent my entire life learning about my body, about bodies like mine, about society, about beauty, about worthiness, and what makes us worthy as women, and where we get that self-confidence and self-assurance from. One of the big ones was the idea that life begins after weight loss. I know a lot of us have thought it, especially if we have been on a journey to lose weight for a long time. The idea that when I lose the weight, I'll try out for that thing. When I lose the weight, I'll treat myself to some new clothes. When I lose the weight, I'll finally go to Hawaii. When I lose the weight, I'll finally find love. When I lose the weight, I'll finally be able to do this thing, or I'll be brave enough to pursue this thing, or I'll love myself enough for this thing. And realizing how toxic that is and how much time it makes us waste. And I did an entire video about that man, I wasted so much time waiting till I lost the weight. And you know what happened? I never lost the weight. I've fluctuated, I've gone up many pounds, I've come down many pounds, up a little more, down a little more, you know. I was never able to get to a point where I felt like, yeah, I'm allowed to be happy now based on my weight loss. There was always another milestone to hit, always another low that I needed to reach before I was allowed to feel good, or before I was allowed to treat myself or to start living my life. I also had to release the parts of me that were overly obsessed with what other people would think, or what other people would say, or how other people perceived me. And I had to come to realize that it really does not matter. It does not matter how I'm perceived by others for the most part. There are some circumstances when a good impression, or, you know, putting your best foot forward is gonna be important. But for the most part, comments from the peanut gallery do not matter. comments from people who are not living their best lives but want to comment on your attempts to live yours do not matter. Negative comments that have absolutely no positive intentions behind them and absolutely no positive action that can be taken from them, that's a no-no. Like, really learning how to cut certain things, certain thoughts, certain behaviors, certain people out of my life, and prioritizing and learning what's important. That was a huge help, girl. It was huge. It was huge. Also, my perception of love and relationships and the role of men in my life, that had to change a lot too. For the longest time when I was dating, I would seek validation from the love of a man, and that would be my source of it. If a man showed me attention, if he said that he cared, if he texted me those good morning texts, if he did those small things that warmed my heart and had me feeling all kinds of feels, then it was like, yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Look at you, Nika. Look at you. I knew you had something going for you all along. This guy likes you. He wouldn't like you if you didn't have something going on for you, right? But then the moment that that affection was withdrawn, or that things ended, or that my heart got broken, I'd plummet into such a deep, dark low, because that person would take all of the self-esteem and all the self-confidence with them. It was all contingent on them in the first place. So it was only present when they were. And that was such a toxic way for me to be at that time, because I didn't know what happiness was on my own. I didn't know that there was a way to love myself on my own, or if someone else didn't say they loved me, you know? And I was seeking it everywhere else because I didn't know how to get it all up and through here for myself. So anyhow, kind of repositioning those thoughts and realizing that, wait, those guys that I thought I couldn't live without, that I rebounded from, and those broken hearts that I thought would end me at the time, I survived those too. Like, here I am still living and kicking and breathing and stuff. Like, there's gotta be something to this, you know? And maybe there really is a way to get some of that self-love and self-confidence and self-esteem on my own, for myself, and not from some dude who don't know his head from his foot, who don't know what he want night from day, and who's always flipping and flopping. That's no way to live. And the fifth and final light bulb came when I realized how much power there is in releasing yourself from judgment. And so that ties into my baby girl and her non-judgmental eyes, and also into not caring what people think and how people are judging you externally, but also with myself. And realizing that all those times when I looked in the mirror and I picked myself apart and I criticized my body and how I looked, and the way my belly was bigger than everything else, and the way that my back fat eclipses the booty. Y'all know that's a sore spot for me, okay? And the way things wiggle and jiggle, and sometimes not in the good way that people seem to like, you know? And the fact that even with all those things, that I don't have to hate myself, that I don't have to attach negative thoughts and judge myself for those things. That was the light bulb. So even if I looked in the mirror and I saw something that I did not like or that I was not fond of, I didn't let that thing cause me to judge myself, and then let that judgment poison my mind and make me feel bad about myself. Also realizing that I don't have to allow other people to project their body issues onto me based on how they feel about their own bodies. So when we watch TV and we see the overweight character looking in the mirror and picking herself apart, you know, or being too ashamed to look in the mirror, or burying herself under baggy clothing, or not being able to eat in public, or starving herself without anyone noticing, you know, or binging in private without anyone noticing, you know, whatever the case is, not letting those things make me feel like I have to treat myself in the same way just because I can relate to her on that struggle. And so when my slim friends, who are about half my size, say like, oh my gosh, I ate a burger and now I look like a whale, then instead of letting that tear me to pieces like it would have before, like, if you think you look like a whale at 125, what do you think about me at twice that? You know what I mean? Instead of letting that become something that I take personally, that I let become a statement about me, you know, and about my self-worth and about my worthiness and my beauty and my whatever the case is, I learned to release that and let their problems be their problems. And that's just that. So my friend may think that she looks like a whale, and although I disagree and I'm much larger than her, that does not necessarily make me feel bad about myself, because I know that although I am heavy and overweight and fat and all those things, that I am not in fact a whale. So why would I take that personally? That's her issue, not mine. And I only expected to have 5 light bulbs, but my bonus number 6 light bulb comes from the work that I do, working with seniors basically, and seeing how, if left untreated, body issues and body dysmorphia and eating disorders and self-loathing and negativity and all of these things can be lifelong conditions. They can last forever, ever, forever, ever, forever, ever. And realizing that I did not want that to be, I do not want that to be my future. That I do not want to be struggling from body issues when I'm 80 years old. God willing, I make it there. That I do not want to have an eating disorder when I'm 60 years old and too damn grown for that kind of mistreatment of my body, but not having been developed enough to understand that I'm worth more than that in my 60 years, you know? I didn't want that to be my life. I don't want that to be my life. Those feelings don't just go away. Even if we were to lose the weight or reach that place where we think we'll find worthiness, there's no guarantee that it'll be there. There are plenty of folks who have lost all of the weight they want to lose just to still look in the mirror and hate what they see, because they've never worked on the inner struggle that comes with that, on the self-esteem things, on the body image, on how they view themselves, on their perception of their own bodies and of bodies that look like theirs. And so if we don't heal from those things, if we don't consciously try to get ourselves to a place where we feel better and where we can truly accept and love our bodies, even if we still plan on changing those bodies, then we'll be 50, 60, 70, 80, or 90-year-olds. I even work with some 100-year-olds, yes. And we'll still be suffering on the inside. We'll still be tormented in the same way on the inside. I'll be damned if I let that be me, okay? And if you have struggled from anything that I've mentioned in this video or from anything of your own, I hope that you won't let that be you either. The only way to get to a happier, more positive, more accepting place is by going through it, you know, by feeling what we feel, learning the lessons, rising above, working on it, and finally earning our spot on the other side. It's basically the process of healing. That's what it takes. It takes healing, whatever that looks like for you. So that's it for this video. I hope it was not 10 hours long, but y'all know I always got a lot to say when I get on these topics that I'm passionate about, and I really, really, really wanted to be thorough so that you know exactly how I got from point A to point B to point C, and I'll just keep going. There's a lot of points yet to come, you know, because I feel like it truly is a journey. It's not something that you start and then you get there and you stop and you're good and that's that and you're there forever and you love and accept and appreciate yourself forever, because our concept of ourselves and our actual self, we change constantly. So those are the light bulbs that got me to where I am today. Let me know what you thought about them. Have you realized any of these things? Do you see any of these tips helping you at all? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, do the thumbs up thing. Also, if you want to check out other videos, consider subscribing. I don't necessarily post very regularly. I try, but you know, there's not a regular schedule. So if you want to know when I'm gonna post, do the bell thing. It should tell you then. And I do hope that I will see you in my next video. Bye.